What's going on, everybody? Suburbanists here at Billy G's. We are enjoying ourselves. This is a good morning. This is a good cigar. This is La Serena Super Sea Monkeys from Privada. Very like beef jerky.
Yeah, it starts out a little peppery. It's a little heavy for a morning cigar, but it's cooling off. It started out, I thought we were going to be in trouble, but it
started out hefty gal.
Yes, but it's cooling off a little bit, and it's very smooth.
And of course, we are drinking the Vida Anejo.
Shout out to Zach.
Yeah, buddy.
Delicious.
How's it going, man? Well,
Through the lips and over the gums, because look out, stomach.
here we go.
Here we go.
Oh, good stuff.
I'm getting a lot of cream and coffee coming through now.
Yeah. And honestly, the funny thing is that I think this, well, it's more of an aged tequila, the Anejo. Obviously, it's not a Blanco, but I think it complements the heftiness of the cigar really well.
That is
and
funny.
the richness
Everything
of the
we
cigar.
have.
Yeah. Dan, you are kind of funny
Man,
looking. You know that?
you got me there.
Funny guy.
That's a knee slapper,
I'm
buddy.
glad. Thanks for warning me this time, because last time I was not ready, and I just lost it. So thanks for the warning.
Yeah, he did beat me after the episode.
Yeah.
This is really good.
It's nice to warn people. Hey, guys, this is funny. Get ready.
Yeah. Prepare yourself.
So,
Prepare.
I was in some prayer time the other day, and I felt the Lord say that everything that you consume affects who you are, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and mentally. Mm-hmm. Everything that you consume affects you. Your food affects you. I love that there's more and more reality coming out about like how much our food affects our emotions and how much our food affects our mental state, and like you shouldn't feel gross after eating, but also, and what we're talking about today, you shouldn't feel gross after consuming anything.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly, golly, I love your shadow right now. Like your 5 o'clock shadow.
Really?
It's, yeah.
This is about as long as I'll let it go.
Dig it. No, it needs to get longer.
No, it just gets scruffy in a
I
bad
guess,
way.
yeah, it's not my opinion. It's Jordan.
See, you need to let, if you want a full beard, this is where you need to ask yourself, what do I really want?
Yeah.
But
Discernment.
like for me, I couldn't shave, so I had to I literally let it grow past that awkward stage, and I actually had
you had
decent beard.
Mondo.
Yeah. No, yeah.
And then
Adams.
And it looks good.
And then after about 2 days, it looked nice, and then it just looked like wet spaghetti noodles. Like it was just disgusting. Now I got it trimmed up though.
Yeah.
Like that
So
watch, too. Gosh dang it.
Oh, this whole thing,
looking good.
I've had that forever. It doesn't. It's whatever.
So,
Hand-me-down Rolex.
I bought this when I got my first full-time job. Just a little celebration.
nice.
First nice watch I ever bought.
It's nice.
But anyways, so back to the topic.
So what is like y'all's favorite movies, and how do you think it affected you, or favorite shows, or whatever? How do you think it's affected your personality, your sense of humor?
Growing up, I mean, we did a lot of black and white movies, and just like the old classics. I'm watching those. There was, I always wanted to kind of emulate some of those guys, like Jimmy Stewart, John Wayne, Fess Parker. Who else? It's sad is when you hear about their personal lives, you're like, oh, well, some of these guys weren't that great, but some of them were. But on screen, like they portray these great people, these great fathers, these great generals, and whatever the case may be. So I'm trying to think. Like watching the Daniel Boone show with Fess Parker, I think set a good example of being strong but gentle. Not always having to yell. Because Daniel Boone, in that show, he was, this towering figure, but he wasn't like unhinged in any way. It was
Right.
Even when he was being like like I remember one episode where he got wrongly accused of something and they were getting ready to hang him, and I think I'm trying to remember now. I think he was chained up somewhere, and as soon as the truth came out, like there's like this instant forgiveness of all of them, and that really stuck with me. Of wow, like I'd be so mad at them. I'd want
Right.
to like as soon as they took those chains off, like I'd want to go to war with them. But he just he's like I don't know. There was just a moment of forgiveness,
Right.
and that stuck with me. And I'm sure some other things will come to mind later on. But yeah, just some of those old shows with good values, good family structure. Yeah, it just really stuck with me.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up watching like Jim Carrey. And then like those were when I got a little bit older. Like those were so I watched like The Mask and Ace Ventura, and I never got to watch Liar Liar, but for good reason.
It's okay. You can watch it later.
But I mean, I watched it, when I got older, and I loved it. But yeah, I'm trying to think. I always liked the movies. Do you remember Dragonheart with Dennis Quaid?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
Sean Connery's the dragon.
Yeah.
I remember
wanna
walking
rewatch
in
that.
on my mom watching that when I was like 5, and I just watched the rest of the movie with her, and that like affected me. And I remember the first time that I'd ever cried at a movie, and I was like 5, because he gives his heart at the end,
Right.
And I remember looking up and like like looking around the room for my mom, and then going to sit with her because I was so sad that this thing was dying. But she was like, but he's giving himself to another person. He's sacrificing himself so this guy could live. And like that always stuck with me. Life is about sacrifice and caring about the ones you love. And
Right.
and then, of course, one of my favorite movies when I was a kid was Small Soldiers.
What is it called?
Small Soldiers. It
I
was
don't
like
think I've seen that.
It was a movie with oh man, I forget the voice actors, but it was a movie about a guy who worked for the military, and they put munitions chips in toys. And so the toys came to life.
Oh.
And like started
I know. I never saw it, but I remember seeing ads for it on TV as a kid.
like that movie was very much, like the fight for good. Like I always had, I don't know, I've always had this sense of like the white knight, of like, the one who goes in and saves the girl and takes care of the family and does what you need to do and fights for the just cause.
Right.
Absolutely, and I think every man should have that. Should
Yeah.
have that desire to want to sacrifice their own life for the betterment of their loved ones, the
Right.
ones that they love in their life. And it's kind of similar to you, like growing up. They're still my favorite movie, but growing up movies, the big three were Saving Private Ryan, 3:10 to Yuma, and then
Nah, yeah.
well, later it kind of became what is it, The Magnificent Seven?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one too.
Now I haven't seen the original. I've only seen
It's good. It's
The original
It's a
is?
full cast. They got a lot of good, strong old actors in it.
the newer one, and I think the newer one's actually, well, I think it's pretty good. I know a lot of people say it probably doesn't stand up to the original, but
The only reason it doesn't is because of nostalgia.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a
That
big.
would be the only, because like, remember when we got together and watched Red Dawn, the original?
Yeah.
We halfway through the movie, we were sitting there smoking cigars, and I was like, "This movie's terrible."
Yeah.
You remember?
That was so bad.
And you were like, "I'm so sorry for like wasting your time." I was like, "Hey, I get a good cigar, have some
And
whiskey."
I bought the stupid thing too. I think I paid like $16 for that. So
Nah,
but
it's
similar
like
to that,
2 hours of nothing.
yeah.
I mean, similar to that White Knight, like Saving Private Ryan, it's a squad going
Yeah.
in to save one man because the mother lost 3 sons and had the
Right.
potential of losing a fourth
Right.
within the span of like a couple days.
Something.
Right.
Short period of time for sure.
Oh, the other one, Gladiator.
Yeah.
And so, Gladiator is about this guy who, I mean, even at the start, doesn't really want to do it, just kind of wants to give up because everything he had to live for was taken from him. Mm-hmm. But he ended up finding a new reason to live, and that was to set the people of his country free from a tyrannical emperor who literally came to power through tyranny.
I think he wrestled throughout the whole movie with revenge too. But it was
Absolutely.
in that struggle he was also fighting for a just cause. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And those movies I really look forward to watching with now I can say my sons. We just found out that my wife is having another boy.
Yeah, buddy.
Very exciting.
Building your army.
That's right. Do you guys think there's, and I think this would vary depending on who you ask, the different examples, but do you think there's such a thing as just brain rot shows, even for kids?
100%.
Yep.
I grew up watching it.
Okay.
Do not let your kids watch Cocomelon, Peppa Pig.
SpongeBob.
Well, okay, but that's got a special place in my heart. That's
I
why
know.
my brain is rotted a little bit.
Well, okay, so
I enjoy it.
listen,
but it is dumb.
it's dumb, but I will say the first couple seasons there's actual humor in it. There's an actual side of humor.
I'll take your word
it's
for
a
it.
dumber side of humor,
Yeah.
but there's an actual sense of humor compared to like the newer seasons and all these newer shows that are coming out, which is straight up just like
Just nonsense and brain rot.
I think
yeah.
the thing. So my sister brought this to light in a surprisingly new light because there was I don't know if people even remember who Shirley Temple is.
Yeah.
Okay. So we grew up watching Shirley Temple, and I think we were probably somewhat older, or maybe it just didn't have the same effect on us when we watched it. But there was one movie, I think it's called The Good Ship, and it's Shirley Temple and her mother. They're the mother is an indentured servant to these very wealthy people, and out of charity, the couple lets the mother and Shirley Temple live with them. Okay, so mother and daughter, they're both living in servitude, and the couple, they have this very spoiled daughter, and all throughout the movie she does these very obnoxious things. Like one time she's like, "You want to play a game?" And she's like, "Sure. What kind of a game?" "It's called Train Wreck." And then she takes her baby stroller and rams into Shirley's baby stroller. Well, my sister's kids watched this scene, and then for like 2 weeks they were doing train wreck with everything. So I think you need to be like, even though I would consider Shirley Temple like just a really good wholesome movie, even in that, like, there are things you just have to be aware of. Kids are going to watch that and pick up on it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Even in
Oh, yeah.
something good as Shirley Temple. So if you extend that forward, I think something like SpongeBob and some of the voices, I'm like, I don't think I want my son trying to talk like SpongeBob.
Oh no, that
Well, no, it doesn't. So when I was 4 years old, I watched an episode of Rugrats where they built an entire fort. Or I'm sorry, no, it was just like a TV set out of a cardboard box.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was cool. So I grabbed a cardboard box from my basement and then looked inside, and my 4-year-old brain was like, find something sharp. And I found a steak knife. And so I went into the backyard and started cutting out like a TV out of this cardboard box to play in. And my neighbor, who was a friend of mine, or he was like the older kid in the neighborhood who liked all, he was a cool guy and whatever. And he was mowing his lawn, so I went like this and like gave a hey, and then looked down and I sliced my thumb. And I've got a nasty,
that the scar? Oh, wow.
nasty scar because they had to hold me down while they were stitching me, so they only got 4 stitches in.
Jeez.
So,
Jeez, Paulie.
but then my mom, it's a horror story for my mom because she said I only cried for about 30 minutes, probably not even that, because we were in the car on the way to the hospital, and I was pulling the skin back and showing her the bone. And she was like, "Son, wrap it up." And I'm like, "But look, it's cool."
Oh, gosh.
She was like, "Put it away." But yeah, that's like an example of how like
Yeah.
a show can affect you,
Right.
especially as a kid.
Right.
You know, I watched Power Rangers and now my sons do, but and the originals, hallelujah. And but I watched those, and those affect, like, I wanted to do Taekwondo, and I wanted to learn how to fight, and I wanted to be
Yeah.
a Power Ranger, you know, and I was a
Sure.
Power Ranger at every recess, and like, it was just, you know, I was always the red one. Until Tommy came along, and then I was the green one, and then I was the white one, because Tommy was the coolest. Because he had long hair back when it was cool, and not because you're a hippie, you know, like
He had the flow.
he had the flow, man, and he was jacked, and he was black belt in like multiple martial arts, and
That's cool.
God rest your soul, Jason David Frank. But like that shaped me and formed me into like, I want to be a leader.
Yeah.
I want to be a leader of a group of guys, you know.
Well, and that's what, like, with all the war movies, I mean, the reason why I watched all these war movies is because I had 2 older brothers. And especially the only time we really kind of got together as, like, a quote-unquote family to watch movies was on car trips. Because every time we had usually about 2 vacations a year, and we always drove. And it was typically to Colorado and then Florida. So you had most of the time, you had over 8 hours in a car. Mm-hmm. And so we would just watch back-to-back movies, and it was always whatever my brothers wanted to watch.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it was 3:10 to Yuma, it was Saving Private Ryan, it was these war movies. Behind Enemy Lines is another one.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
been
And
a
so it
long
was all
time.
these,
Wow.
which gave
Black
me
Hawk Down.
that is one of my
Dude.
favorites right now.
Yeah, that's a
That
good
will
one.
always
Yeah,
be a
that's a
special
great
place in
movie.
my heart. But watching all these war movies, like, it gave me a fervor and a desire to want to join the military. Problem is I got fat, so I knew my place. But it always gave me a deep appreciation of the people who are able to sacrifice their life
Yeah.
to go protect mine, to go
Right.
protect my freedoms, and to go protect the potential of who I am.
Yeah. So along those notes, kind of the opposite side of it, has there been a show that you guys have started and maybe liked, you know, on the premise, but then decided maybe I don't need to watch this anymore and stopped
100%.
watching it?
100%.
Any examples?
It's called Shadow and Bone. It's a Netflix show. I think they canceled it. But
But you canceled it first.
Yes. First few episodes were
You were the reason why they canceled.
outstanding.
Adam's not watching anymore.
So I love like sci-fi stuff. I love movies and shows where the main character has a leg up on everybody else, but they're just now learning their leg up. So like origin stories are really fun for me. I loved Man of Steel. A lot of people hated on it. I loved that movie.
I haven't seen it.
I love that freaking movie. And Batman vs Superman was terrible, but
I did watch that. That was
terrible. But
didn't make any sense.
I mean, I love Batman Begins.
Yeah.
And obviously the original Batman, Val Kilmer, Michael Keaton, like, you know,
Yeah.
George Clooney Batman can I just forget about that if the Lord allows me. But
God willing.
That's your cross to bear.
right. Like they picked the perfect person to play the Joker and told him to play the Riddler. Come on, dude. Jim Carrey is the perfect Joker, or he would have been. And he played the freaking Riddler. It's weird. But anyway, great job, Tim Burton.
I don't know enough to agree or disagree.
But yeah, we were watching Shadow and Bone. Great first few episodes, and then they just hounded it with hidden messages. And then there was one episode where there was like legitimate, and you do you. I don't want to see it, but like legitimate. I don't watch movies with like sex scenes. I can't do it. But then there was a gay sex scene, and I was like, we're done. Like I can't. It was too much. Like it. The story was so good, and they set it up so well. And then they stopped caring about the story and just started making it about sex, and
That's-
like, and I'm like, come on,
That's
dude,
too
like
bad.
don't. And there's those people who justify the first season of Game of Thrones that way, where it's like, well, but it's a really good story. You just got to get past the sex.
That's why
like it's half the freaking episode.
That's why I'll never watch that show. There's
Yeah.
just I keep seeing clips of it on YouTube. You know, it'll pop up on the feeds and stuff. I'm just like
I have no desire.
this would change me. I would be watching it between the brutality and the betrayals and the sex. I'm like, why would I watch this? There are perfectly good other good stories out there.
that can portray the same ideas,
Right.
just in a
100%,
I-
different way.
I don't need to see this. I would venture to say most people don't. Sex should be a very private thing. You can allude to it in a tasteful way, but I don't need to watch it.
Yeah.
You know,
That was actually my. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say we live in a very pornographic society already, and I don't want to encourage that, and yeah, two, I've got my own struggles, and I don't need things that keep making that struggle even harder.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and no, I 100% identify with the struggles and like that whole, because it again, it goes back to everything you consume affects you
Right.
in some way, shape, or form. That was actually one of my positive notes about the show Reacher. So I just finished season 3.
Oh yeah.
Phenomenal show.
It's an awesome show.
Unbelievable show. But there's a nude scene in the first season, just a small scene in the first episode, and or in the third episode or whatever it is.
It's
Of
like
the first
this.
season?
Well, there's a pretty grotesque scene to where you see someone kind of strung up, and like a dead person strung up, and he was tortured.
Well,
and
yeah,
so you
but
see
that's-
that,
but
and
that's
that's very
part of the
slim,
story.
very little, and yeah, that
But then there was a sex scene in the shower.
it was like the second to last episode in the first season.
Yeah,
I think.
and
Okay.
that part I was like, oh, okay, that's not.
And that's something you
necessary,
can.
but-
It's never necessary. I mean, I think James Bond kind of always did it at least a decent part. Like you never saw anything too graphic.
Yeah.
But they definitely let you know what was happening without
Right, it was
showing you
tastefully
everything.
done. But then that's what I liked about the show moving forward is it stayed good in the second, third seasons, and there was like they only alluded to it.
Right.
You know.
They showed
So-
you kind of the build up, and then they kind of let you know, like, obviously.
Right, and that's kind of the tasteful side of it.
And kind of similar to you, Joseph. Like for me, my show was, well, I kind of got two. One is the Vikings. Vikings on like what it was
yeah.
History Channel, but also like they had their own standalone, which was they could do a little bit more with the brutality and the Viking, I guess, way of life. Has always fascinated me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even their even just their belief system, like what is it called, mythology?
Norse
Yeah, mythology.
Norse mythology.
Has always kind of intrigued me.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
just from more of a fascination, not in like I want to get behind this.
Yeah,
but-
it's interesting. Yeah,
and especially just they lived in the most rugged areas this
Yeah.
world has to offer, and yet they found a way to live in it.
yeah,
and-
they were tough.
They
Yeah.
were extremely tough, and especially just all the legends you hear about the Vikings and how
Yeah.
strong, brutal. Like you hear about the berserkers who literally would go into battle with no armor but just 2 axes, and they would
Yeah,
Come out alive.
they do well. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
Vikings was one, but it just became so brutal. And every episode, well, not every episode, and that's why I think I watched it for so long. But not every episode had sex in it.
Yeah.
And even when they had sex, it wasn't like 2, but you did see some stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
But it was the brutality, and it was the constant revenge, and it was the brutal revenge because there was a ton of torture, and they would definitely show you.
and that's where I start drawing that line. That line I know is going to look different for everybody, and that's fine. But like, I have nothing against watching violence. Like you watch a war movie, you're going to see violence. You're going to see someone die. You're going to see a grenade go off, and all these things. That's fine. But there is a point to where it's like, what is this purpose? What is it serving at this point?
Yeah.
Because I feel like we've almost replaced in some ways the horrors of the Roman arenas
Exactly.
on screen now with movies. And I think we need to be careful that these things are not making us, I just had the word, desensitized to violence, to sex. I think we have to be careful with that because there is a side to human nature that can be brutal. That is brutal. If you let that side come out, and I think you want to be careful that you don't encourage that in such a way. A lot of the older war movies that I grew up watching, there was violence, but it was more about the heroism.
Yeah.
Like the Longest Day, for example. It's clear that people are dying, but but it's not so graphic.
Yeah.
There's a deeper storyline underneath it, and I really appreciate that. And I wish we could go back to that a little bit, but now it's so much about the guts and the gore, and I
The
think
shock
now
and
that we
awe.
can show it, we can,
Right.
we will, and all that.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite, actually, and this is a movie that I'd never seen until we watched it together a couple years ago, but The Searchers. So it's one of my favorite depictions of and it was so perfectly done, in my opinion. So The Searchers, John Wayne movie. It's these two guys who go to look for these girls that were kidnapped by Native Americans.
his niece. Oh yeah, you're right. It was two girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
And one they find alive, and she kind of saved herself by integrating herself into the culture.
Right.
But the other one, you find out, was scalped. But the only way you find that out is because her hair is hanging off the chief's staff.
Yeah.
And
You
I
don't
was like,
actually see
you
her
don't
scalp.
see anything.
Yeah.
And that was so brilliantly done because my mind. I mean, we have incredible imaginations.
Right.
And so if you just allude to something, your mind's going to think about it anyway. Like, how did
Right.
that happen? What did it look like? That sort of thing.
Right.
I don't need to see it on screen.
No.
Well, and
Like,
I almost think
yeah.
that does the audience better. Because then you're allowing them to kind of integrate their imagination with what's going on the screen or
Right.
in the book. I mean,
my
if
gosh.
you're reading.
One of my favorite. See, we're going to be talking about this forever. So great movies, The Prisoners with Jake Gyllenhaal and Hugh Jackman.
Never heard
So
of it.
it's about this group of people who just kidnapped this guy's daughter, but the entire movie, all the action sequences aren't shown; they're just alluded to.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So even the end of the movie, one of the main characters gets kidnapped, but he has a whistle on him, and he's buried underground, and the detective is like walking around above him. And at the end of the movie, you just you see the detective, who's Jake Gyllenhaal. You see him hear the whistle, and then the movie ends.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's cool.
And so it's so good. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
But like it alludes to all of the sequences. You don't see
Right.
anything.
And I think there's a power to that. Like for example, in The Revenant, which I think we talked about recently, it's about this guy's bear attack and him surviving it, and then, and
His quest for revenge.
yeah, his quest for revenge.
Which
So-
actually, that's an untrue story. So the guy, in real life, he actually didn't kill him. He found him and didn't kill him.
right, yeah, which
Which
that's-
I think is an even better story
I
because he has that
agree.
much. He survived a bear attack, spent the rest of those days trying to find those guys that left him to die,
Right.
and then decided not to kill them. That's
Right.
that's grace.
Right.
Like that's amazing.
I agree with that. But what I liked, so in that movie, it's about a bear attack, and it's from the perspective of whatever Leonardo.
Whoever Leo's character was.
Yeah. So to show that type of gore, and is one thing, but like in The Searchers, you're envisioning what the scalping might have looked like of that one girl.
Right.
And since we don't know, I feel like there's a power to just alluding to it without your own interpretation of it.
There's also an ease to walk away from something because
Yeah.
that's another thing. The desensitized thing
Yeah.
is like it's so. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, no. Basically, it's just a brief point. It's. I don't know. It made more sense in my head. I'm trying to. Basically, like since we don't know what it looks like, I feel like we should be careful sometimes to not over portray it or over guess at it. But when we know, like in The Revenant, like okay, this was a bear attack, and the guy told that story, then we can share that part of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's a
No.
But
I get that totally, and also the desensitization. Like, did I say that right? I said that right.
yeah.
You said something
Like,
right.
so movies affect me emotionally. Mm-hmm. Like, especially if I can relate to one of the characters to an extent. So, like with Reacher, when I watched that show, I walked taller because the actor and I are the same size, except I've got 50 pounds on him. Like, we're the same height, we're not the same build. God, I wish.
He spends so much time in the gym, though.
Well, right, that's his job.
Yeah.
And his genetics are just outstanding.
Yeah.
But it's like I emotionally attach to things.
Yeah.
And when you see something like that, like I've walked away from a couple of the episodes being like, oh, I don't feel so good. You know what? Does that make sense? Like, have you ever walked away from a show or a movie like that and just been like, it affects you for a few hours or even a day?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
See, personally, I don't know. Maybe I've just kind of desensitized.
Dan's just dead inside.
Well, no, it's just I do connect, but I never like. I don't know. I guess maybe it's for me. I'm used to kind of seeing all the gore because for a certain period of time in my life, I actually liked the violence, the gore. One of my favorite shows was the first season of The Punisher.
Oh, yeah.
And at the end, spoiler
show.
alert, he takes like his best friend's head
Yeah.
and slides it down broken mirror.
Such a brutal scene.
And you see it. You see it, but you don't. It's not like up close personal,
Right.
but you see it. I remember watching that with my brother, and my brother turned away to where I was like, "This is awesome."
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't know. I didn't
messed up.
emotionally, Dan, you should seek help. But
Jeez. Dude, your face. That's messed up.
it was nonchalant. It was very to the point. It was just kind of effed up, kid. But I don't know. For me, I never like walk away from a movie feeling bad. Honestly, the only time I've ever felt bad walking away from a movie is because of the fact that it's over.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
3:10 to Yuma is always a movie that I walk away going, "Oh, it's over,"
Yeah.
because that is one of my favorite movies.
It's a good one. Yeah. And it's not just movies. Like, it's an easy thing to point to, but, video games, music. Growing up, we listened to a lot of classical music, a lot of just good, innocent, music. Now it's funny. Listening to some of the Frank Sinatra songs and, like, songs out of that era, you're like, there are subtleties that you just don't know
Oh, yeah.
what they mean as a kid.
Yeah.
But I think there's some wisdom to that, too, of, there's not necessarily anything wrong about singing about love, but we don't have to be so to the point that you're spelling out exactly what you're talking about. Kind of that subtlety, the allusion to it.
Right.
There's a grace to that. And I like when they do that in movies, when it's like, okay, it's implied that this happened.
Yeah.
But I don't need to see it. In a song, it's implied, but you could also take it a different direction too. It's a little bit more open ended.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think with all this stuff, social media, what people are choosing to post nowadays, I think it's really sad. Just all the either it's people posting themselves doing stupid stuff, which is entertaining, but also like, why are we so dumb?
Yeah.
Or it's immodesty, which again, it's like, why? I don't know. If I have a daughter, I'd be really sad if I saw her posing in some of these ways in some of these pictures and then posting it. Or it's filming someone doing something, like catching someone at a bad time in their life and then like making fun of them. Like, I just think as a society, we need to do a better job of protecting each other a little bit.
Yeah.
Not everything needs to be filmed. Sometimes I think people set each other up just to catch a reaction, and I think that kind of annoys me. Like, and I get it, people have different humor, but some of these like husband and wife pranks that I see a lot on social media kind of bother me sometimes because I feel like there's a breakdown of trust. Like, I don't think I'd ever want to walk into a room with this person. They might throw a pie in my face or, drop something on my head. It's funny occasionally, I guess, but
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't
want to
know.
have to be on edge while I'm around my wife.
yeah, and I get it. Like they're
It's not healthy.
this is part of their relationship now. They're both in on it, so like there's something to be said for that. But I don't know. It's just where we've come. It just I don't see all this stuff really benefiting society in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Oh, what was that? That kind of reminds me of the meme I showed you yesterday, Adam. So it's a picture of a school bus going over train tracks, and on the bus it says Karl Marx's theory on value. And then all of a sudden, a train blows right through the middle of the school bus, demolishing it. And on the train, it says OnlyFans. But that's
That's
dark.
basically the whole point.
that is
That's the whole point we're trying to make.
society
Yeah.
today. I mean, like,
Well, because society wants to find, culture wants to find the next best thing. And because of doom scrolling, we can rush through things so quickly that it becomes a sensitivity issue.
Yeah.
And so, like, I've given up social media for the most part. Like, I do it for work, and I do it for this. But, like, I try to give up scrolling because it just, like, I feel empty. Because,
Yeah.
like, you go in looking for this grandiose thing or something that just, like, over the top that you have to share with other people or whatever. Like, go make memories in your own life. Share those.
Well, within a short span of time, you can go through all four emotions through doom scrolling. You can
It's
go-
also, yeah, it's exhausting.
It is. It's draining. You can go through grief, denial, anger. What's the other one? All these things, and it's just bombardment.
yeah.
I gave up social media for Lent, and I haven't downloaded it back on my phone. My goal is not to download it again, and just if I want to check it, I have to log into my computer and pull it up there, and then But like during the day, I was just spending so much time on it. Sitting in bed, I'd be on it, wanting to check it for no reason, and it would just suck me in, and I just got so tired of it.
Yeah.
My other thing that I need to watch is YouTube, because now they've got the feeds or the shorts, and I'm like, it's just so consuming.
It's YouTube version of TikTok.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
pretty much. So I'm trying to bring that back a little bit, but
How do you think? Go ahead. Sorry.
so my wife and I are watching Little House on the Prairie,
Okay.
and I think that is just such a great wholesome show.
Yeah.
I cry so much during that show. Like just watching like watching Charles Ingalls. Like when he's really proud of his girls and he starts tearing up, and all of a sudden I start tearing up because I'm like, I understand, or he'll get mad because like his daughters were wronged, or maybe his wife got wronged, and just the way he would show that emotion, I'm like, yeah, I get that. Like that's how I would feel as a husband if my wife was treated that way, or if my daughters were treated that way. And seeing that, I'm sure there's a word for it, but I can really only describe it. When a man sees something bad happen, all of a sudden that energy swells up inside of him, this like righteous anger.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what it is, that righteous anger, or that righteous disdain for the bad, and that to me is so masculine.
Yeah.
And so righteous.
Yeah.
And
It's a very
love
godly
that.
emotion. It's a
It
very
is.
godly feeling.
right, because in that you're seeing something wrong, and you're like, that needs to be put to death. That thing, maybe not that person, but it's
The idea.
Yeah, that idea. You should always hate the sin but love the sinner.
Yeah.
And when that's portrayed in a really good way, I think that's very powerful and very beautiful.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Dan and I were actually talking about this the other day, about how I believe that one of the great gifts that God gave to Dan is his sense of justice. He has a very supernatural sense of justice. He's very fair. He's very honest. He's very just. And it's one of those.
That's true.
He's rained back on me a couple times, and I'm like, I feel like I'm fairly just. But he's like, yeah, but the way you're doing this could be a little bit better, and it would make it feel like you're not as manipulating the situation as much, or something like that.
Yeah.
And all of those things get affected by just I love that word, our desensitization of this culture of everything you consume affects you.
Yeah.
And people don't get it.
No.
Like, I read a study the other day that said, if you get up in the morning and the first thing you do is look at your phone, you have a 15% chance, higher chance of having a bad day. Because your brain is, depending on what you see, because your brain, that's the first thing you're focused on when it wakes up, is just scrolling or looking, or, it's a work thing, and so you get bad news at work or whatever. Like, you have, it affects your entire day.
Yeah. I'll add my own stat to that. If I look at my phone first thing in the day, I have a 100% chance of having a slow or delayed start to my day.
Yeah.
It's especially on a Saturday morning. Like, where did my 2 hours go? I was supposed to be outside at 9 o'clock. How is it 10 o'clock already? And I'm still on YouTube watching something.
Right.
So
And you have less of a desire to get up
yeah,
and get
now
going.
I'm sluggish and I'm slow. That fire that got me out of bed. I'm like, oh, I'm really excited. Because I wake up on Saturday mornings and I'm excited to get outside in the yard and to get dirty and get to work.
Right.
And when I get on social media or get on YouTube, it's almost every single time I'm not outside until like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. I'm like, what happened to my morning? So for me, my personal stat is I have a 100% chance of having a very delayed start to my day.
Right. And I wonder if there's some sort of statistic that's like there's some sort of correlation between social media and depression. I know there is.
There has to be. And I'm sure in 10 years they're going to figure it out.
But to the extent of, I wonder how much it is, like how much it affects depression and how much, and what I mean is like how much need for social media feeds into your, oh, I'm bored, therefore I'm depressed because I don't have my phone, because I'm not looking at something.
Yeah.
So like I have a hard time. This was all through Lent, but and I think I'm working it out now. But like I have a hard time just sitting still and watching a show without checking my phone 20 times.
Yeah.
And then like my wife and I are watching Through Bones right now, which I think is a great show.
That's an awesome show.
And another show that just alludes to things that happen.
Right.
Like it doesn't show all the gore and violence. Sometimes it does, because it's part of the story.
It's part of death.
Right.
And it's not like the
But it
actual
alludes
action of
very
killing
well. Right.
is gory. It's more of the aftermath. And that's more to show like the truth behind what happens after death and what
Right.
happens to your physical body after death.
Right. But I mean, like I can't sit through an episode without looking at my phone. And like last night we were watching and my wife was like, golly, I'm glad we came under here.
Yeah.
Starting to come down. But I was watching and I was looking at my phone and she just looks over. What are you doing? Oh, I was just checking. Okay. Like we're watching the show together. You know what I mean? Put your phone down.
Yeah.
But it's that like my brain just needs it and it feeds off of it.
I think
and I
we
can't
now
sit still.
I think we now have the attention span of a goldfish, which is like actually no, less than a goldfish. Isn't it like what is it? A goldfish has the attention span of like 6 seconds, and I think we're at 3 or something like that as humans. It's so bad.
I say, what we have become as a society is what happens when you give monkeys crack.
We just go nuts.
I think we kind of have.
There were some guys that I was talking to recently, and they were telling me about, like, I tuned it out. I don't even want to know how to find this, but they're saying there's somewhere you can go, and it's just a compilation of videos of people in their final moments, and it's all through, security cameras and things like that.
Oh yeah, you can just watch people die.
Yeah, I'm like, why is that okay? How sad is that to be viewing actual death
Yeah.
as some form of entertainment.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I mean, it just. I think that is so sad. And that when I heard that and how they were talking about it and talking about the different ones that stood out to them, like, oh yeah, did you see the one where the bear just mauled that person? I'm like, that affected me so much just hearing about that, because death is such a sad and intimate thing.
Yeah.
And to be viewing that as just casual, I don't know, that I had to come home and process that with my wife. It saddened me so much that day. And I just thought, how did we get so desensitized that now we can view this as well? I mean, it's bad enough that, I think it's right up there with watching two people have sex, you know, like in porn. Those are just things that you don't need to see.
Yeah.
We know what death is.
There are doors for a reason. Some things need to remain behind them.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's such a thing as a private life and just privacy.
Yeah.
We don't need to watch that.
Yeah.
We know what it is, and like innately, and if you don't know, you will at some point. You know, like if you're called to get married, you're gonna figure out sex.
Yeah.
You don't need to watch it. You don't need to take a course on it. Give me a
Right.
break. And, yeah.
Well,
So-
and plus, sex is between two individuals.
Right.
Those two individuals are. This is going to come as a shock, so hold on to your butts. But those two individuals are very individualistic.
Right.
So, I mean,
You're gonna
just because you
yeah.
watch someone else do something that doesn't mean that's going to be actually pleasurable to somebody else, or just somebody else wants that.
or it's a standard that it's like, you can't maintain that
Right.
either.
Right.
You know,
It's similar to going on social media and seeing people who are always shredded and cut and at 5%. Like you can't live like that.
That's social
If
media
you're-
and lighting and like,
Those are
Yeah,
also
that's true, too.
bodybuilders. They made that their career. And also, like, if you go see them when their cameras are off, they will probably tell you, I can't live like this.
well, the guy that played Reacher and then Gerard Butler behind the scenes talking about 300. I've seen interviews of both of them talking about the regiment they were on. They're like, nobody should be doing this. You know, Butler behind, off camera was constantly doing curls just to stay as shredded as possible.
Yep.
And, not eating and not drinking water just to look as cut as he possibly could. You can't maintain that.
Well, no, there's a
It wouldn't even be healthy to
no,
try that.
and they'll tell you it's not healthy. So
Yeah.
there's a form of like camera ready body that Hollywood will do. It's called dehydration.
yep.
So you drink a gallon of water or more a day for like 3 weeks, and then a week before, or like 3 days before shooting, you don't eat much. You just drink a lot, and then a day before shooting, you don't drink or eat anything. So your body is used to peeing all that out, and then it sucks all the water out of your body.
Wow.
And then you shoot, and that's when you're as jacked as possible. And Hugh Jackman will tell you it like
I was gonna bring up Hugh Jackman in
Yeah.
Wolverine when
In
he comes out of the water.
right. He was like he had not drank it for an entire day.
It was 3 days.
Oh wow, yeah,
Jeez.
So, well, no, it was he didn't drink that day. The day before, I think he said he only had like half a liter or something like that.
Right.
Which that's what, a cup,
yep,
maybe a cup and a half of water. And then the day previous to that, he had maybe like a liter.
right.
Yeah. That's it.
And then he wasn't, like you said, he wasn't eating. And that's exactly what bodybuilders do right before they get up on stage. The other thing I've also heard bodybuilders do is right before they get up on stage, some will start ripping vodka.
Yeah, because it accentuates your veins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
And,
it blows up your vascularity.
I had a friend, God rest his soul.
Didn't know that.
He died in an accident, but he was a bodybuilder, and he not in a bodybuilding accident. He was on vacation. He drowned.
Jeez.
God rest his soul. Yeah, he's a great guy. But he said that they drink nothing but water, like 6 weeks beforehand or whatever, and then the day of they drink a pint of Gatorade and eat a Kit Kat, and all that sugar rushes to your veins. That's why they look all veiny when they get up there,
Yeah.
because it makes all your veins pop.
Well, and the Kit Kat was especially for his muscles, because when you go up on stage, you don't just stand there. Like you actually go up and you're flexing for a couple minutes straight.
Yeah.
So you're putting a lot of your effort into just flexing your muscles,
Which that
so you're
also
straining.
burns calories, yeah.
So you need that carbs as fuel right. before. But
yeah. But again, like
it's an unlivable standard.
It's kind of a false reality. Like you can only do that there's a purpose and there's an end to it. Because you'd kill yourself otherwise.
Right.
But as a viewer, all you're seeing is this ideal, this awesome result of tons of sacrifice, and you don't know about all that sacrifice. You just see this image. You're like, oh, I want that.
Yeah.
But to get there, you couldn't live a normal life.
Yeah.
I couldn't go to work. None of us could go to work and do our jobs while also trying to do something like that.
Right.
Yeah, you can't live off Ozempic.
God, no. No. Guess what? It kills you. On that note, we have
Joseph.
Adam.
And Dan.
Thanks so much for joining us at the table, ladies and gentlemen. Be careful what you consume. We'll see you next time.
Or don't. Do what you want. I don't care.